and welcome to episode 112 of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards. We have the E3 hangover, I think. I think we are all...
It is real.
It is for real. I am very tired right now, and I miss you guys.
Miss you too.
I know. That's Derek Heemsbergen, everybody.
Hey, everybody. I'm Derek Heemsbergen, everyone on the boards, and Rob is right. E3 hangover is real, but it's not because of the... there's a lot of exhaustion on the show floor, walking around and doing all that stuff, but just miss my friends, you know? I want to hang out with you guys.
Aww, you just want to drink more Johnny Walker Black with me. That's what you want.
It was all right, yeah.
Wow.
Rob is a good bedmate, by the way.
Aw, well,
he doesn't kick you in the middle of the night or anything.
As long as I'm not sweating profusely and like a nuclear reactor over here, but
yeah, Derek's my favorite bedmate as well.
Derek is a good bedmate.
The only sound sleep I had, I think.
Oh boy! All right, so I was going to introduce you last Canadian, but I guess we'll let you jump in right now. So that's Stephanie. There is no way in hell I'm going to pronounce that last name.
It's not that hard. It's Sabidlo.
Sabidlo? No. Sabidlo.
There you go.
All right, I'm going to forget that eventually.
I will remind you.
You sound like a character in The Witcher. All right, I'm just throwing that one out there, like that Eastern European, like Triss Merigold, Yennefer, Sabidlo. Like there it is.
I think it has to do with like cattle herding. So it's got its exotic roots.
And Steph, this is your first time on the podcast.
Hi.
Steph's the one that puts up all of our Facebook media because Lord knows I don't ever want to have to do that again. So, yeah. And she does a much better job than I do.
She does a great job. So if you ever engage with us via Twitter or Facebook, it's probably going to be her most of the time. We have another guy, Nelson, who does some of it as well, but it's usually Steph. So all that witty stuff and all those cool pictures on Twitter and stuff, that's her.
And she's a good podcaster, too. We've had her a couple of times on Rhythm Encounter, a.k.a. my show.
And a couple times on Retro Encounter.
All right, you damn encounters. All right, let's get everybody else in here. We got Caitlin Argyros, everybody.
Hi, guys. I did not go to E3, but I watched as much as I could when I wasn't busy at work, and I also have the hype, if not perhaps the hangover.
And I tried to do the really nice thing, because when we knew that Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, was coming, and we couldn't tell anybody, I was like, Caitlin, here's your birthday present. You are going to go see this. And she was like, yeah, Rob, that's nice, but I ain't going to E3. And I felt like a dick.
Yeah, but then I got to go, so.
It's okay. I thought it was very amusing. Like...
I wish you could have gone with Caitlin.
I know, yeah. Oh, but I would have been super nervous. I didn't know that you were actually going to be speaking with the Kato and yeah.
Yeah, it went really well though, but I ended up having to go to that one by myself. So the chair was empty. It had your name on it.
I was there in spirit.
Yes,
I was.
And then we also have Mike Solosi of Retro Encounter fame back from his first E3 as well. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing all right. I think I brought something from E3 back with me. I have a little bit of the nerd plague going, which is why my voice isn't quite as sultry as usual. But I went to my first E3 with the rest of the RPG fan people, and it was awesome, and I'm excited to talk about it. And yeah, I think that's about all.
Cool. So, I guess before we start taking apart the press conferences and taking apart everything we saw, just like a general vibe that I had this year. This was my third E3, and I remember Derek, Steve, and Mike, everybody telling me that after you've done it a few times, like you start to... Jaded is maybe a strong word, but like you sort of lose the honeymoon goggles, and you kind of see the show for what it is, the good and the bad, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. But the thing that really struck me about this year was on the show floor, it felt like the booths just got bigger, but there was less stuff for me to actually play. And there was more like waiting in lines to watch games being played at me than actually playing games. And Derek, you're the one with the most E3 experience here. It sounds like you agree with that.
Yeah, I've never experienced lines on the magnitude that there were this year at the show. There were so many places where you had to queue up just to get a ticket and then come back, or like you said, queue up just to watch gameplay and not even get your hands on it. And a lot of the booths, particularly Atlus's booth, they were so cramped. Like,
Yep.
Atlus, everybody is excited for Persona 5, as they should be, and Atlus was giving away the Morgana hats,
So cute.
which are super cute, right? But to get it, and this is what I don't get, because E3 is still at its core supposed to be an industry, a trade event. So it's like the idea is we're going there to exchange information, there are business deals happening, we're providing coverage of the stuff, and of course it's fun for us because we care about video games and we want to get in on all that. But it feels like more of a Comic-Con kind of thing, what they did, like, because they gave away stamp cards and you had to play each of their games, or 4 of the games that they had on display, and each one they would give you a stamp, and then you went back to the front counter and that's how you got the Morgana hat. Like, that's something that I would expect to see at Comic-Con, or like, I don't know, MagFest if there was a publisher thing there.
And they didn't have nearly enough room because they had
Right.
5 or 6 demos behind their main stage where they were showing all the Persona 5 stuff, and I mean, you couldn't walk 3 people side by side through that thing, and there was just dozens, if not 100 people trying to try all the demos at all times. The only time I was able to get back there to play King of Fighters and 7th Dragon was at the very end of the 3rd day. When
it was totally bottlenecked.
when the Morgana hats were gone. So it's they need more space, or I should say, Atlus needs a bigger booth or just smarter booth design with less space being taken up by the stage or something.
Right.
And
Join me in throwing money at Atlus.
we would be remiss if we didn't point out the absolute behemoth that was the Zelda booth, which was just like watching this stampede of people.
Oh, I saw a video about that.
Black Friday status.
Like,
I think we only had one person actually brave that line, one person in RPG Fan to actually brave that line and play Zelda.
yeah,
Right?
and it was because they had like turned people away and then they reopened it because like a lot of what they were doing at E3, like the Resident Evil 7 booth and the Zelda booth, they were doing a thing where like they would let you line up, but they weren't going to let you just like continuously line up to the point that it creates a fire hazard. So they were like turning people away, but what you could do is maybe if like the line had moved more quickly than they were expecting, you could kind of slip in, and that's kind of what Jesse was able to do when like they had said no more people, and then he kind of hovered around there for an hour or two and he managed to get in. The Resident Evil 7 booth just wasn't happening. They put a big old spook house over in. Now I've got the halls all mixed up because I'm that tired right now. But they had a big old Resident Evil 7 booth that like you had to go line up at the beginning of the day, get your little e-pass tickets, and then come back for your demo at the appropriate time.
Yeah,
and like
it's crazy because Mike Salvato, who isn't on this episode, and Rob and I all lined up. I think it was day 2. To try and play Zelda. We were there when the doors opened, and we were in that rush of people that went towards the back. It was, 10:04 a.m.?
Yep, 4 minutes.
And the line was closed. Closed!
Wow.
And that was for playing, so we decided there were 2 lines for that. There was one to play and one to watch in a closed theater. So we went around to the other side and tried to get into that one. And that one was...
I can watch. That's ridiculous.
I know. And that one was okay, and the little cool experience that we had there is we're standing in line, and a Nintendo, I think he was from Nintendo Treehouse guy, walked by, and he's like, "Does anybody have any Nintendo tattoos?" And Rob grabs my arm, and he's like, "This guy right here."
I have no boundaries.
And I was like, "Do I?" And I had to think about it for a second because I have a Xenoblade tattoo.
Yeah, the Monado counts.
Yeah, and Earthbound Starman tattoo, but I just wasn't really thinking about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I guess I do." So he pulled me and took me up to the front of the line, which was super cool. And he was like, "Yeah, I just like to do this every now and then, bring people up." So I got to get into the theater, but then the line for the viewing was short enough that Rob just got in with the same group as me, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
But even so, it was like a super cool experience. I was like, "Oh my god!" But those lines were just insane, man. And I think it says something that we were at this show to provide coverage of the games, and none of us in this group right here got to play Zelda. Only one person at RPG Fan got to play it.
We sent 8 people. Our cadre was 8 people, and only one guy managed to play Zelda, and that's because he hovered around lines for more than 2 hours.
He stalked the line.
He did stalk the line. And I think that's like... so I was maybe a little down on E3 for the first 2 days, because I was getting kind of frustrated because I wasn't playing a whole lot of games. Like I was in meetings and I was in interviews, which were really, really cool and like a fun opportunity to talk to developers, but I wasn't like playing a game. And then I just had like rapid succession, got to go see Gwent, the Witcher card game, and once again, CD Projekt Red, they know how to party because they had beer available at 10:30 in the morning.
Of course they did.
And
Well, they're Polish, so.
and it was good Polish beer, like just really, really good Polish beer. I got to sit down. Jesse kicked my ass up and down at Gwent. It was fantastic. I got to talk to the developers a little bit.
Then we went to go do the Persona interview, and you were a bit tipsy.
I was a little. I think I need to start every day at E3 with a beer to kind of like loosen me up a little bit, because then I have the gift of gab, and I just want to start talking to everybody. And then at the end of the day, I got to see Tyranny, the new Obsidian Western-style RPG, much in the same vein as Pillars of Eternity. And they just let me play the game. They were like, "We're going to let you play for a half hour. You can talk to the developers. You know, we're not going to tell you how to play. We're just going to let you go. We'll answer any questions you have." And I was like, this is what I love about E3, is sitting down, talking with a developer, getting a good interview, playing a game, really giving my impressions of it. The worst moment of all E3 was when Steph and I were going to see Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And I was pumped. Like, I was ready to go. And we had been told that it was going to be an interview and a hands-on demo station. And they just took us out of the Square Enix booth. And I was like, we're going the opposite direction for an interview right now. And they took us across, and they sat us down in their big demo theater that anyone can just pull up a chair, and they just played the game at us, the exact same demo that they released 2 weeks ago.
We did get front row seats, though.
We did get front row seats. I was just and I'm not like saying, you know, oh, Square Enix, how dare you? But it was like obviously a communications breakdown, and that's fine. Like, that happens when they're doing hundreds of interviews. But it was just like, if all you're going to do is show me the demo that you released last week, like, I don't want to see that. Like,
Yeah.
that's the worst part of E3 for me, is like you're just going to show us the exact same demo videos that you showed a week before.
You know, it's funny, Rob, you had mentioned that it seemed like there was a total disconnect between the Japanese games coming out of Square Enix and the Western games coming out. Because for the Japanese games, like, they treated us really well, and they were like super, super nice and welcoming. I got to interview them for Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age. Didn't you guys, Mike got to do a thing for Final Fantasy XIV?
Yeah.
He talked to Yoshida.
Not me. Mike Salvato
Yeah,
did.
sorry, Mike Salvato.
But yes, he did, and he was very excited about it.
Yeah, and they were super accommodating. They gave us coffee that apparently had crack in it, according to Rob.
Good God, that coffee! Oh my God!
It was like vibrating out of existence.
Well, but Rob usually vibrates normally anyway.
It's true.
Yeah.
That
So
is
there
a
was
true
that.
statement.
And then you get to the Deus Ex stuff, and they're just like, yep, come sit down and watch it. So, I mean, I think that, of course, universally, like, we had a pleasant experience with all that, but it is interesting, like, now that the culture is shifting towards, like, releasing all of this information on social media before the show, a lot of these things that we're seeing there are just like, well, I saw this trailer last week on YouTube, but I guess I'll watch it on the big screen.
Yeah, there were a couple demos that were behind closed doors that are not readily available. Like, I got to see Vampire and The Surge, two games I was very interested in. Those eventually ended up on, like, the IGN, GameSpot channel thingies that they do at E3. And, like, so that was a little bit more of a limited demo. I got to ask some questions during that, but mostly, like, my favorite parts of E3 have been either playing a game that I obviously won't be able to play for a long time, or really sitting down and talking to developers. And I don't know if this was a result of so many different companies pulling out, and I think this is a nice transition for us into the press conferences a little bit, but, like, yeah, you know, not having EA there was very bizarre, and I also have to hit EA very hard right here, because after a year of, like, playing footsie with Mass Effect Andromeda and getting everybody all excited, they showed about a minute and a half of new footage, which looked amazing, but that wasn't good enough.
I was so mad.
That was not good enough. It wasn't good enough to show Lando Calrissian in a Star Wars game and then have Amy Hennig say, yeah, we're working on a Star Wars game. Like, EA just... It's very clear why EA didn't show up to E3, because they didn't have anything to show. They didn't have anything. Like, and we know they're making games. Like, they're coming. But it was like, oh my God, you guys really didn't have a damn thing to show us. And that's for Mass Effect to be coming out in 2017, and
it's like early 2017, right? March?
I think that's what they've marketed, but I would now say that game is like a fall to winter 2017 title. And that's fine.
They were still
it was a
showing, like, behind the scenes, this is how we're making the game, the E3 before it's coming out. I'm like,
I think it's probably still a spring 2017 game because it was a 2016 game until very recently.
True.
And Mass Effect 3 did come out in March, April. So there is a precedent for that. I think, but we don't know for sure when it's coming out. And it was disappointing to have barely anything there from one of, if not the largest American publisher.
Yeah, it was a bummer, and Dragon Age Inquisition I loved, and they delayed that a whole year. So I'm not saying that like a delay is a bad thing. That's not my argument. But my argument was like they had gotten everybody all hot and bothered for new Mass Effect footage after last year. Kind of. Leaving everybody out to dry. Like, we made fun of Nintendo up and down last year for not showing any Zelda, and I was going on record saying I can't believe they didn't show Zelda. I never believed for a second they wouldn't show it, and they didn't show it. And then Nintendo just totally came through this year and was like, well, here's the game you're going to buy an NX for.
And it looks amazing.
Holy crap.
Breathtaking, man.
you're going to buy an X4.
Are the RPG Fan Awards out yet for E3?
No, they're not. So
okay. I won't comment on that then.
But the only bad thing I maybe heard about Zelda was that the control scheme was a little weird. They obviously have tons of time to work on that, but I think because this game is giving you so many more things to do with Link, it doesn't surprise me that it's maybe like in a limited 15-minute demo, you can't like fully grasp it. Like when I played Shadow of Mordor at E3, my first E3, like I was looking at the screen like I was doing calculus for the first time. I was like, what like I'm really struggling here. So I think like that's the only little thing that I heard about Zelda, but watching over someone's shoulder just playing that game was just holy hell.
I was just going to say, well, it was total crap to get into that booth. Once you were in, damn, it was pretty in there.
It was really pretty.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
We just looked from the exit like a stray dog.
just like looking in at the other dogs eating at the Italian table, just like, oh, this is sad.
I was going to say that, of course, there were, everyone was streaming different IGN, GameSpot, PlayStation. They all had live streams going on, but the one that I stayed on as much as I could, work allowing, was Nintendo. Like I spent.
Yeah.
I don't think I really cared about anything else that was being shown that day from what you could watch online. I just had to see more Zelda, which is a big thing for me to say because I'm not the world's biggest Zelda fan.
Yeah. You know what? A little piece of E3 insight that I think Rob at least agreed on is that when you're at E3, it's such a different experience from being at home watching the streams. And I know that sounds really obvious, but the fact of the matter is, when you're out there, when you're on the show floor and stuff, like you're not seeing a lot of the footage that everybody has already seen until you get home from the trip.
Yeah,
like it's at the hotel at night, but at crappy hotel Wi-Fi, and we're like writing and doing stuff. So it wasn't until I got back from E3 until I was like, oh, there's the trailer for that game that I didn't know that they were showing.
Yeah, if your goal is to take in as much information as possible, that's easier to do from home with a good internet connection.
Yeah.
Like the benefit for going to E3 is to sort of just be part of that industry and talking to developers and playing stuff hands-on. But if you just want to collect as much news as possible, it's best just to stay home, really.
Mm-hmm. And I did not get to see Dragon Quest VII until Steph and I were standing by the Atlas booth. I would have had no way of seeing Dragon Quest VII, and then that was also the moment when Steph admitted to me that she doesn't like Dragon Quest, and I have now pushed very hard for us to kick her off the site.
I knew about that from forums beforehand.
We did the vote.
It's not a secret.
Day.
No, my vote is at least 3. Anywho. But, like, I wouldn't have even known about Dragon Quest VII because there was nothing at Nintendo's booth. It was just Zelda. So.
Oh, right, yeah, I told you about the Dragon Quest VII release date when we were walking to a different meeting.
Yeah, and I was like, holy crap.
Right. There's a lot that you miss if you're on the show floor doing other stuff and not just reading all of the news that's coming out.
And it's another excuse for me to not play Final Fantasy 15 because it's coming out so close to it. So it's like, oh, okay. Do we talk about Final Fantasy 15 right now, or do we keep going with the press conferences?
Well, it was part of the press conference.
Okay, let's talk about Final Fantasy 15. All right, now look. listeners, calm down. Okay, just calm down.
That's a good start.
You're so patronizing, Jesus.
No, because like you have to get the full statement out, which is like none of us are hoping that this game ends up bad.
I'm absurdly hyped for the game still.
I really want it to be good. Like, and I have not up until now played anything or seen anything that has really gotten me excited. I'm a little curious about some things, but I haven't had that moment. I haven't had the like Leviathan Final Fantasy VII moment, or like the first time I saw Final Fantasy IX in motion. Like, I haven't had that moment. So then there's the Titan demo, which is like, how the hell did that show up on the show floor? Like,
should have been called an E3 demo because it was a hot mess.
Oh my God! Like, I mean, Colin fell through the world on that. One of our news reporters, Colin, he fell through the world. It just didn't look good. And for a game that is 2 months away, this should be the most telling thing to our listeners. When Mike Solosi and I were over at Square Enix, which Square Enix had the best booth at E3, nice and open, tons of games, tons of kiosks, no Mighty Number 9 to be seen. It was the best kiosk at E3.
It had more demos and more open space and better designed like signs than the Atlas booth. It was a really, really cool booth to just hang out in.
It was also huge.
True.
And I'm looking at Final Fantasy 15. And then I look over at Kingdom Hearts 2.8, and I said to Solosi, I would much rather play Kingdom Hearts 2.8 because that combat looks fun. Like that looks way more fun than Final Fantasy 15. And now they're talking about this wait mode in Final Fantasy 15, which again just feels like they are just trying to make this game for everyone, and by doing that they've lost vision, and now they're making it for no one. Like that's how I feel whenever they announce a new feature in a game that is a little over 3 months away.
Well, the wait mode in particular also worries me because I almost get the feeling like it's like they're acknowledging that their battle system is perhaps too chaotic for some people like me to control well or have fun with, so we have to add a different, a mode to make it easier to tell what the heck is going on.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And again, I really want that game to turn out great. I will much rather be playing Dragon Quest VII or Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse whenever we get a release date on that.
Those both look great. The problem with the Final Fantasy 15 demo is that, again, I'm really excited for that game. I think more than most of us on that site. I don't know, that's not like an achievement or anything, but I'm still really excited for it.
Achievement unlocked, we got you.
I am consistently a fan of Final Fantasy, and there's not a single one that I dislike outright. There are some that I think aren't as great as the others. I think 2 is probably not fantastic, but there's none that I hate. Anyway, so I'm excited for 15, and the problem with the E3 demo is that it just did an incredibly poor job of showing off what this game has to offer. It is an extremely scripted sequence that has you running at the camera, Crash Bandicoot style, and so there's no actual strategy or anything happening there, which is okay. I'm okay with that in the context of the larger game as a whole. It's okay to have little sequences like that here and there, but for them to show it as a demo, there's that, and then you get into the arena where you're fighting Titan, and there is only one way to win that. You have to know to teleport up to a certain point, and you have to know to warp strike off of that point and then cast Blizzard. That's how you win. There's no actual strategy involved beyond, did you press the right buttons at the right time? And it didn't help that the station that I was playing it on was right underneath a bright-ass light that was just shining right on my screen. And I was playing it on an Xbox One, which, sorry guys, Xbox One, just isn't as powerful as the PS4. That's not me knocking the console for its library of games. It just isn't as powerful. So it was running at a lower resolution and was really, really muddy. The whole area is super brown, and you're fighting Titans. So you're in this big rocky outcropping. And it was brown and muddy, and I couldn't really see, and the entire time there's just Titan swinging his arm at you, and I kept getting knocked over and over and over until I figured out that I had to do that incredibly specific sequence of events to clear the demo. And I just think that in no way represents what that game is going to play like. I mean, even from the Platinum demo in Episode Duskai, I know that that's not how that game plays. But for them to show that as the most recent example of Final Fantasy XV's development progress is super bad. It doesn't mean that the game is like getting worse necessarily. It just means that they chose a very poor section of the game to demo off.
So what you're saying is they chose poorly.
Damn it.
Had to work that in somewhere. Huh?
I did. So yeah, we were all a little down on Final Fantasy 15. I'm still buying it because I'm an idiot, and that Amano artwork steelbook, I'm just like, well, I'm gonna buy that.
Yeah, I'm still day one.
I already got the collectors for Star Ocean 5 and this, and I feel like I just wasted a ton of money.
Well, that's better than me doing the Last Guardian Special Edition, Persona 5 Special Edition,
Oh, me too. All those.
Oh, that's special.
Dishonored 2 Special Edition, and I bought a $400 graphics card today because
Yeah, that's the crazy bit.
yeah, I'm an idiot.
You are.
I don't own a PS4, and I still bought 2 of those 5 special editions.
I really
It's
like
a-
the Dishonored one because that'll go. The little mask will go right in my classroom.
In your study. Oh, your classroom. That's
My
cool.
classroom. I'll take a picture of my classroom sometime. It's just
You
decorated
should.
with crazy crap.
I was going to say, as long as we're on the topic, Steph, you brought up Star Ocean 5, the collector's edition of that.
The
Did you
other
get your-
big disappointing RPG of the
Yeah. Did you,
Yeah.
did you play it on the show floor, Steph?
Yeah, a little bit. It was okay.
I couldn't really get a great feel for it on the show floor. I think Jesse played it, and he said that he was really disappointed with it.
He's another big Star Ocean fan, too.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was.
I'm definitely of the opinion that, demos are probably one of the worst way to experience a game, as necessary as they are.
RPGs
put a lot
especially,
of
I
them
think.
in, like 10% into the game, and it's just a completely random context. Like the Final Fantasy XII demo, I thought was one of the worst dungeons they could have picked for that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah, it's the big open mine area where I think you rescue Pinello from those lizard people, right?
I
It's
could really-
Bergerba Mines.
I could really be an asshole right now and be like, which giant open dungeon that's slightly boring are you talking about?
No.
Oh.
Don't you go there.
Well, that dungeon isn't particularly giant and open so much as it is just a long, boring tunnel. So they chose poorly for which dungeon to include in the demo, but I mean, it did look pretty sharp, and it definitely was FF12. So
It did look really good, but apparently the voice acting is still like MIDI.
All tinny.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, it does sound compressed still. But the new arrangements of the soundtrack, what I got to hear sounded amazing because it's in you're in Bujerba for a second before you go into the mines. So just walking around that little part of Bujerba, I heard that new orchestration and I was like, Kaylin's gonna love this.
As long as you're
Yes.
okay with everyone sounding
As
like
soon
this.
as soon as I
nice
can
to see
pre-order
that.
the soundtrack, I am pre-ordering it so hard.
Oh yeah, me too. The second it's available. But to circle back around to Star Ocean 5, I also only got to play it for a second. Looks great in motion, 60 frames.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah, it's. I still don't love the character designs in that game because they're like, we need one character of every color of the rainbow. Let's make them as outlandish as possible.
It's like an ad for a university. We got
so-
our black kid, we got our Asian.
Oh my
No,
god!
it's like Captain Planet or Power Rangers or something.
That
Yeah.
girl, she looks so awkward.
The mage girl.
Yeah.
Oh, Checkers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Her name's
Oh,
Checkers?
yeah, they just look kind of weird.
That's her nickname on the net.
Wait,
is Checkers.
she's named after Nixon's dog?
No,
What?
that's not her
I
name.
think
It's
she's
her,
named.
it's her nickname.
Yeah, she's named after the pattern on her dress, which is
Okay.
which is
Wait,
not
did
the
they
most.
call her checkers in the game?
No, it's the
Okay,
fans.
okay. I didn't
The
think
fans
so.
came up with
Come
it.
here, Checkers.
Because of
We're
her
gonna go
horrible
outside.
outfit.
What's her name? Fior. Yeah, I guess I just heard my limited time with that demo didn't really give me a super strong impression one way or the other. But I heard from Jesse who played it and from certain other sources who should not be named that Star Ocean 5 is something of a disappointment overall. So I'm still going to pick it up when it comes out next week, but I hope that is not the case. It also releases on the same day as Zero Time Dilemma, so good luck getting my attention away from that.
Nope. Did you see the first reviews for Zero Time Dilemma and Famitsu?
No, I don't
Eight.
know if I want to.
8s across the board.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Well, for Famitsu, that's like, terrible, but whatever.
No.
Y'all remember when Famitsu used to mean something? Where it was like, Final Fantasy 12 got a 40 out of 40 and we all lost our minds.
Also,
like,
didn't So did Nintendogs. I mean, they're a little bit all over the place.
I like that, though.
Well, depending on who you ask, that 40 out of 40 was well deserved.
Overrated.
No.
So yeah, Square Enix had a great booth. I got to play Deus Ex Breach, which is their kind of Metal Gear Solid VR missions, not actual VR. I have to be careful when I say that. They're sort of puzzly VR missions for Deus Ex: Mankind Divided.
You just said it again.
Well, I just have to make sure that people don't think that it's like an actual, like, oh, you put a headset on? Like, no, it's not actual VR. And for the third year in a row, I did not put on a VR helmet because I wasn't going to stand in lines for hours to do it.
That was a disappointment too. That was the kind of thing
yeah.
like, as somebody who is not exactly open to the idea of dropping $400 on a tech that I don't know if I'll be able to use without it making me sick. Like, I would have loved to try and play one at the show, because I get headaches from 3D, like 3DS 3D or movie theater glasses 3D. So I don't know how VR is going to do in it. That would have been a fantastic opportunity for me as somebody in the press to like talk about it and get my experience. But no, because you had to download a friggin' app and like reserve a place in line and go back, and it was a mess.
I really wanted to play Resident Evil 7 in VR, but instead I just decided to wait until I got home and play it.
Instead you just decided to shit your pants.
That was kind of
the floor.
Well, not on the floor. That was kind of the big moment. We had two computers running in the hotel room while we were watching the Sony press conference, and one was about 10 seconds ahead of the other one, and I had it kind of angled so that I could watch it. And when the 7 came up, there were a lot of expletives coming out of my mouth because we didn't quite know what it was, and I kept going, is this also that Aunt Rhody song is now permanently stuck in my head?
I love that song.
It's a really good version of that song. It's so terrifying. Sony's press conference was kind of like, stop it. Sony's press conference was kind of like surprising. You had the Resident Evil 7 announcement. You had all of us rolling our eyes at God of War, and then it ended up looking
and then
really
losing
good.
our shit.
Like, it ended up, okay, that's it. We're not allowed to say shit anymore. Okay, that's 3. We're done. All right, I'm not editing this. Damn it.
Was it 4 pushes it to an R rating?
4 pushes it, and then I have to start editing. I think the God of War demo, we were all like, oh man, it's going to be God of War 4, this is going to suck. And then they show us something that looks completely different, has a completely different tone. You should have called it Dad of War or something, and it was just like, I'm totally on board. And then we got word a couple days later that Cory Barlog, the director of God of War 2, which is the best God of War, is back.
Thank you.
Like, I went from absolutely no interest to I am on board, I'm buying this day one.
Well, was the music that they used to intro the conference, was that from this new God of War, or was it something else?
I don't know, but I think that's probably the reason why we didn't get to go to the press conference. They did not do it at the big convention center where there's like 100 million people in there. They did it in like a small theater with a live orchestra, which, if they do that again next year, I'm going to slit somebody's throat to get in there.
I don't think the music was from God of War. They had other intros that were just from classical pieces. I recognized part of Dvorak's New World Symphony for one of their intros. So I don't think it's from God of War, but the new God of War looks more like an RPG than any of the other God of War games, and
Zelda as well, finally.
And you can press a button for your son, which I thought was hilarious.
Press X to Jason.
Yeah.
Oh no, please, no, David Cage, no.
Yeah.
Although, speaking of David Cage, I'm not totally turned off by Detroit Become Human. In fact, I might be interested in it, which is kind of weird, but...
I was listening to the Giant Bombcast, and they were talking about David Cage's pitch for that game, where he was basically like... It's almost as if David Cage... Again, I'm getting this secondhand, everyone, but it's almost as if David Cage does not know that the movie Blade Runner exists. Like, he thinks that he's being edgy and is like, maybe the robots don't even know that they're robots, and, like, they're hunting each other. And I'm like, God, you pretentious asshole. Like, seriously. Like, I'm with you, Caitlin. Like, it didn't completely turn me off, but I'm so snake bit by that guy, and I'm so with Until Dawn. Like, I am so in that crowd that game needs to be, like, not even a quarter of David Cage's pretentiousness for me to care. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think he can do that. I don't think he can be that unpretentious.
I think that he seems to be the first person that thinks that he's ever done robot fiction, and that's already not a good sign, because
Isn't he though?
His storytelling has been very questionable.
I'm not going to praise David Cage stuff, but you're assuming a little too hard there that he's never seen Blade Runner, or that he thinks he's being original with these concepts. I think that's a little ridiculous. I thought the trailer for Detroit looked pretty cool.
Again, I was going by what the Giant Bomb guys were talking about in his presentation. I wasn't there, and you're right, but I just we remember him talking about how he was going to handle violence and nudity and sex, and he's always handled it with what he seems to think he's being subtle when he's like, oh, I'm not going to use nudity to titillate. Yeah, then why are you showing Madison's boobs so much? All right, and seriously, come on now. Maybe he's grown up. He has been gone for a while. Everybody played Beyond Two Souls, right? Right.
I did.
I watched a playthrough of it.
Nope. Nobody played that, huh? Oh, okay. Everybody was too busy playing Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Beyond Two Souls came out a year before Until Dawn.
Yeah.
And Until Dawn is the one that's remembered.
No, I remember Beyond Two Souls.
Just saying. I'm sorry. You all know my feelings on David Cage. Maybe that game turns out to be good. I don't know. The presentation, bless you. The presentation was interesting. And again, he shoots for the moon, and I'd much rather have him shoot for the moon than play it safe. I just hope he hired a writer. I think he's an idea guy, and that's cool to be an idea guy, but then you need somebody to be a writer.
Jason!
The origami killer. So there was that. I want to get Caitlin all angry here. So
Xbox?
Yeah. So in the pre-show warm-up, Caitlin just threw the gauntlet down on what's the new Xbox going to be called? I can't.
It's a Zodiac constellation, right?
Yeah, it's something, maybe a Simpsons character, very famous.
Scorpio! The Xbox is the Zodiac killer.
Oh god, no, that's Ted Cruz. So Caitlin, they announced the new Xbox Slim, a 40% reduced version of the Xbox One, and then they also let slip that they are making just as everybody was reporting, a 4 times more powerful Xbox Scorpio that will be released at some point next year.
6 teraflops. I
am now going to mute myself and let you go.
Oh wow, I get the stage?
Yep, go for it.
Where to start? Everyone I think knew that they were gonna do a slim Xbox One because, good God, that thing is a beast. And it did look kind of cool. Who wouldn't want that over the current version? But I don't know, just announcing that and then ending with by the way, we're making the most powerful console ever coming out next year. Who's gonna buy an Xbox One S now, knowing that in a year there's gonna be a better, more powerful, possibly the most powerful console until we get the specs on the Neo and the NX comes out? I don't know. It's weird. And then there's the announcing of the Scorpio over a year before it's actually going to come out, not showing us anything, but just having the developer, the PR video of everyone gushing about how awesome all this processing power is going to be, and I'm still left wondering, okay, but what does that even mean? Obviously it means 4K video, but beyond that, what does that mean? I don't know how much we've gotten from Microsoft as to their plans for co-developing between current Xbox One and Scorpio. We know Sony is going to enforce that developers make versions of their games for both current PS4 and Neo.
Just to be fair, that's based on the report. That's the leak that we've got so far. The only official statement that we have from Sony is they're working on something, and we will learn more about it later. But the leak I know what you mean. The leak is that they are going to enforce that you can't have a version of, like a PlayStation 4 version of a game running worse than a Neo version.
Right. Well, I mean, it's just sort of like they kind of can't. I mean, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot if they do, because suddenly you'd have an entire install base that wouldn't be able to play new games and would have to upgrade. And it's just kind of like, I mean, they're not going to sabotage themselves that way. I like to think they're not going to sabotage themselves that way.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we don't know really a lot about the new version of the PS4 yet, but I think that's more something going hand in hand with Sony really trying to push 4K televisions in the future, rather than trying to have a new iteration on the PS4. And like both of you said, the leaks showed that they're going to set benchmarks that so that no version is compromised if you play it on an old PS4. But which I think is if that's true, it's probably the best way to do things. So it's not blatantly disrespecting earlier adopters. But the Scorpio seems to be a bit of a larger step than that. I don't think Scorpio is just for 2K owners. I think they're actually making this more of a hardware iteration.
Yeah. And that's the fear, I think. And again, we don't know a lot, and I feel like we've said that over and over again here, but we don't know all the deets. We don't know all the details, but I don't know how consumers are going to respond to a massive jump in hardware. And to Caitlin's point, which I very much agree with, who the hell is going to buy a Slim right now? Like that's the most bizarre part of this whole thing to me, is like, the Slim has basically been taken out back and shot before it was even on store shelves.
Before it could live, it died.
It's bizarre. Like, there's going to be some people will buy it. Derek, go jump in.
Well, that's what I just feel like it's so weird, because I still don't have an Xbox One, not because I have any particular hatred for the platform inherently. There just aren't any games on it that have really, pushed me far enough to want me to get it, to make me want to get it. And so the Xbox One Slim should have been that. It should have been the iteration that made me say, okay, maybe it's time for me to finally pick one up at a lower price. It's a redesigned console, won't run as hot and burn my house down, whatever. So I thought it would have been a good opportunity. But why the hell would I buy an Xbox One S knowing that a Scorpio is around the corner? That is just insane.
Yeah, it is a very bizarre moment, and I can't figure this out. Maybe they didn't even want to announce it, but because of the leaks, they felt they had to. Maybe that's part of it, but I just, you hear the argument about cell phones, and it's like, oh, well, you have to buy a new cell phone every 2 years, blah, 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 blah. We've conditioned people to buying cell phones. I don't necessarily know if that works for consoles, because the number one argument that you hear whenever you get into that whole BS war of console versus PC, console owners want to buy something that is going to work.
Yes.
That is the whole effing point of owning a console. I bought this. I'm going to put my PlayStation or my Xbox One games in there, into the correct system, obviously, and I'm going to play them. PC is a little bit more, hey, you're kind of saying what kind of games you want to play, what graphical fidelity you want to play them at, what monitor size. There's a lot more user choice. But with that comes, sometimes a lot more expense. Hi, how you doing? I'm the idiot right now that bought the graphics card. There's a lot more expense. And we have also said we're okay with upgrading our systems to keep up with that. I think you tell somebody right now that, you can sugarcoat this any way you want, but if you start talking about games running better on the Scorpio than the Xbox One, and What's-His-Face was on Giant Bomb up and down saying that's not going to be the case, but talking about a 4.5 times difference in the two consoles, it's hard to believe that they're not moving in that direction, that, this game's going to be running at 60, this game's going to be running at 30, or, God forbid, even though they said up and down this won't happen, God forbid you have the Xbox Scorpio only game, which that didn't work out so well for Nintendo with the new 3DS.
Yeah, I think I'm going to play devil's advocate slightly here, even though I think
go for it.
Even though I think it's ridiculous that they unveiled the Slim and the Scorpio back to back. I think the Slim is just so they can have a sort of a more modern,
Something that doesn't look like an 80s VCR?
No. It's more like they can have
Betamax.
like a more recent manufactured SKU of the Xbox One that's a lower price point. Like so they want an Xbox that's on store shelves that costs $150 less than the biggest one, so that maybe consumers that aren't as informed or aren't as interested in the newest games can get a cheaper thing.
Like a
Now,
2DS?
Yeah, sort of. It's like some people that buy, using iPhones as an example, some people that are in that Apple ecosystem don't always buy the newest phone because they want an iPhone, but they don't want to spend the most money on a new one, so they get one that's like a year or two behind. I think that's the sort of market that they're gonna go for with this Xbox Slim. I'm not sure that market really exists for video game consoles.
Yeah.
Because the consoles aren't phones. And it's a different consumer base, and gamers are usually very informed about the consoles that they want. But
yeah, I'm reminded of like when they released the Wii that was supposed to be like no GameCube support. It was like
that pissed me
sort of
off.
entry level Wii, and I don't even who did that appeal to? Nobody really.
And it was the only version I could buy. That was the super frustrating thing, was when I said, "Hey, we're going to get a Wii for the house," and like Jackie and I are running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to find a Wii that is a GameCube. And they weren't out there. I would have had to buy a used one for almost the same price as a brand new one. That was incredibly frustrating. Like incredibly frustrating. And the way they phase out the old designs, that can get really nasty too. Like if you want to have a what is it now? Like the original DS could play Game Boy Advance games, but now it can't.
The DS and the DS Lite had a Game Boy Advance slot, but the 3DS doesn't.
And the XL version of the DS did not, and the DSi did not.
Yeah, and that really bothered me because I got a DS XL, and I was like, ooh, I finally get to play Aria of Sorrow. Nope.
Is it a bad rumor that it affects performance then? To have, two systems you can play?
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything.
I don't know the reason. I don't know if it's like a performance issue or if it's just a marketing thing or.
I can't.
I mean, I suppose it definitely slims the profile of the console physically to not have that slot.
I remember like the PlayStation 2, like the slim PlayStation 2, people used to say like, hey, it runs a little, like it'll load a little bit faster and it doesn't get as hot. Like I remember that kind of stuff. Like if you're like me and you went through like 7 PlayStation 2s, I think that's part of the hardware redesign. But I don't know outside of that what else you really get.
Meanwhile, PS3's form factor didn't really change at all when they.
Just a smaller George Foreman grill. Like that's all they did.
The PS2 Slim, I think, was a meaningful form factor change.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was.
That was huge. I love the PlayStation 2 Slim. Like that's a sexy little beast.
Yeah, I've had mine for over a decade, and it works. It's awesome. I love the thing.
Yeah.
I don't like the flip open tray for your discs though. Compared
No,
to
that's true.
I mean, yeah, but.
So yeah, Scorpio seems weird. I don't want to throw Microsoft up on the cross just yet, but I am kind of like, you kind of boned this generation with bad messaging to begin with, and I get it. You're trying to be more transparent, but I think you're kind of doing it again. And if I were an Xbox One owner, I'd be a little pissed off right now. I'm a little pissed off not knowing what's going on with Sony, but now Sony can sit down and go, all right, how does the market respond to this? Maybe everybody says, oh, we all want Scorpios, and they start, pre-orders, and they're through the roof. Scorpio!
Oh, yeah.
They can frame the messaging for the PS4 Neo, or whatever it ends up being called, in a way reacting to the Scorpio response, which is, a little dastardly of them, but smart. It makes sense.
I think, they made the totally right call by not unveiling the Neo at their conference.
I mean, I think Sony was waiting to announce the price of the PlayStation 4 till the absolute last minute. I really think that they were waiting, and they felt like they had a dagger through the heart when they came out $100 cheaper. And they did. And I mean that you guys remember that press conference?
Yes.
They announced the price. They announced, remember the whole thing about this is how you play used games on the PlayStation 4 was that 30-second video that they obviously had put together that morning. But Sony's whole marketing around the PlayStation 4 is ease for developers, wonderful integration with Twitch and with Twitter and all that stuff that gamers really want, and then just sticking it to Microsoft every time they can. Like, just sticking it to them. And there you go. I don't know. Maybe people respond to the Scorpio, but I don't,
Oh, can I say, like, 2 things nice about Microsoft so I just to feel better about myself?
As long as one of them is bloodstained, because that was at their booth.
Okay, that is true. I wasn't going to talk about that yet. But just on their press conference, I thought Recore looked neat.
Yes.
And also, I thought it was super cool that they're focusing on Windows 10 and Xbox One interplay, like being able to play the same game perfectly with between console and PC players. Is something that would have been unthinkable to me as recently as a few years ago, and it's very cool that it's going to be nice and smooth for the Xbox One, and that's about all the nice things I have to say about their press conference.
As long as they don't force an upgrade of Windows 10 on my PC. And then there's also the weird messaging about, like, what does it mean to be a Windows 10 only game? Remember when Rise of the Tomb Raider was announced, they said, hey, this is going to be Windows 10 only? And then they spun around and you can buy it on Steam. Same with Ori and the Blind Forest. So there's a little, there's a little weirdness there that I kind of want to know more about with the Windows 10 stuff that makes me a little nervous. Like, I love Windows 7. I think Windows 10 is a fine operating system, but I'm not that big a fan of it. But, it is what it is. Microsoft's booth was much better than it has been in previous years. There were
so many games there. It was dense with stuff.
Yeah, it was like an arcade.
And it was easy to move around. The car didn't take up nearly as much space.
Neither here nor there, but I was just happy to play Cuphead over there.
Oh, you got to play that?
Yeah, I played it a little bit.
I didn't actually see that on the show floor. How was it?
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It felt like
a really good looking game.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, the look of it is just inspired, and I love how it has a filter that even looks like a 30s animated cartoon.
I would buy the system just for that. I'm just that much of an animation geek.
But it played like a good Contra or a good Gunstar Heroes game. It looks great.
It does look really good. They also had Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, the Koji Igarashi Igavania. I didn't get to see Iga, and it really makes me upset.
I got to shake his hand. He was super chill.
You're gonna kick with him, yeah.
He didn't have the whip.
I did too.
He had the hat.
Yeah, he had the hat. I saw pictures.
The poor dude was being hassled for like 6 hours straight. So I didn't ask him to take a picture. I just shook his hand. But he was a little uncomfortable being there, just being gawked at all the time. But but he had a cool hat, and his game was really good. So I'm super excited that I gave to that Kickstarter, unlike Mighty Number 9.
Yeah, it definitely looks good. A little bit of trepidation on the environments looking a little bland, but I think they haven't put like all the shaders in. And then the only other bad thing that I have to say about that game is the boob monster at the end kind of had me raising eyebrows a little bit. It's just like, oh, please don't let this turn into a boob.
Yeah,
like,
because there have been plenty of sort of erotic demons in previous Castlevania games, which I'm okay with. Like, some of them
actually erotic.
Yeah, well, like Succubi and stuff. Like, that's okay, understandable, fine. But, as long as it's not like every boss is elemental boobs. Like, this is the water boob, and here's our fire boob.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not the case. The main character moves fantastically, though. She's beautifully animated. It's like a 3D polygonal model of Alucard brought to life, and guess what? That's what we all wanted. Like that...
Out of curiosity, not to open a huge can of worms, but at least, Steph, you were there. Did you get to see Bloodstained at the show?
I did not, actually. I'm sad.
Oh, okay.
I got
to ask what you thought about.
I think I missed a lot of the best stuff. I kind of just wandered and I saw nothing, I guess.
Yeah, oh my god.
Bloodstained, I didn't see like a lot of the press conference stuff, so womp womp. I did a lot of good interviews though, so that was fun.
You did, yeah. I was there for some of them. You did great.
Hey.
Steph is really good at just kind of engaging people without any sort of pretense. Like, oh yeah.
She got to beat the crap out of people in Yakuza. That was fun. Did get to watch that.
Yeah, Steph walked right up to Laura Bailey at the Batman demo and chatted with her for like 3 minutes. It was amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's so nice.
Yep.
I love Laura Bailey.
Yeah,
She's going to be a really cool Catwoman.
she will be up. It was great going to that Batcave in general. I wish we arrived earlier for the drinks, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Telltale's booth had a bar that was serving beer and hard stuff just outside the theater where they were showing the Batman demo.
But
And
it was like a proper mansion. Like there was
great.
carpet, leather seats, a grandfather clock, everything.
yeah, we got there like a minute before the demo started, but I wish we had gotten there significantly earlier so we could have had something. It was a shame, but the demo did look cool.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get information at my CD Projekt Red demoer about Cyberpunk. I was like, come here. What can you tell me about Cyberpunk? He was like, dude, man, they're watching me. I was like come on, tell me something. Gwent was really cool, and that was actually my first time playing Gwent and realizing that game would
I
absolutely...
can't believe you.
I'm a bad human being.
Wait, you
are.
had never played Gwent in the game?
I had never played it. I focused on the Witchering. I had Witchering to do.
And all over the place.
There was just some Witchering over here and some Witchering over there. And then they ripped off my arms and they threw them over there. And then they ripped off my straw and they threw it over there.
We gotta find Dorothy.
Dorothy! And then,
Spies are overpowered. That's my piece of advice for Gwent. Spies are overpowered.
It was a really cool game. I really liked that. The UI interface was great, and I think Katya, the woman who had worked on the UI, it kind of feels like she's done a lot of the work in the latest update for Witcher 3, which does a lot to rectify some of the UI problems with that game. So very, very good stuff at CD Projekt Red. They then were like, I don't know if we're going to show Cyberpunk next year, and I'm like, don't F with me. Do not. If I come back next year and your guys aren't here,
speaking of CG Projekt Red, this is apparently the episode where I say, speaking of X or Y, Z. So, who was it? Was it one of you who posted a picture of CD Projekt Red's first booth? It was on our Slack channel. We were talking about stuff, and somebody posted a picture of the first time that CD Projekt Red was at E3 in 2004.
Was it Kensha Hall?
It was in a concourse meeting room, and it's just like a crappy keyboard with a little monitor with a piece of art on it and one chair. It's like amazing how far they've come.
No,
yeah.
It was
to the frickin' 3-building Gwent ad that was in downtown LA.
The interview what? Inside the giant Gwent building?
Yeah.
The giant ad, which was just fantastic. That was cool. I think it's a good idea for them. They're actually putting story beats in the game, like a full-on adventure mode where, like, when you get into battle, it's time to play Gwent, and that just seems so freaking awesome. It was really cool. Like, it was one of those things where, like, I don't know if I would actually play that game the whole way through, but I think it's a really good idea. And then they kind of had to figure out the model for that game, how that works, and that kind of goes along with Deus Ex Breach, is they've talked about microtransactions in that game, and it's like, well, how do you make sure that you're not microtransactioning the hell out of the game to then make it pay to win?
But they said there's a single-player story mode in Gwent?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
And there's going to be like 10-hour-long campaigns that they're going to release. I think all the doom and gloom over the new Hitman, we were talking about that this time last year. I think that's actually gone a lot better than anybody was anticipating. It's gotten a lot of really positive word of mouth. I think that is the perfect idea for a thing like Deus Ex Breach, like a very mechanics-driven game. Like if they did kind of you only have 48 hours to try this hack, and you can only do it once. Like the elusive targets in Hitman are so much fun because they add that element of like, I get to only try this once. And so, like, I better really hit this with everything I've got. That's a really good community aspect that I think more games need to adopt. I think that could be, unfortunately, Hitman doesn't give you any rewards for doing the elusive targets, except for, like, new costumes after you do 10. That's a bummer. I think that there's a lot of potential there is what I'm trying to say, and I hope that Square Enix is letting everybody talk to each other that works under their umbrella to kind of reach a really good thing. I think Deus Ex could really benefit from that. And it looks good. It still looks really good. Although no one talking about the graphics downgrade on that game, which I find kind of interesting.
Do you think there was one?
Oh yeah, and again, it's because that when they showed the game, it was I won't say it was as dramatic as Witcher 3, like the first time they showed Witcher 3 and everybody lost their minds, and then the game came out and it was simply gorgeous and not, mind-meltingly amazing and people lost their minds. I think Deus Ex has gotten a pretty substantial graphics downgrade, but it still looks really good. I think as they start zeroing in on the consoles, and they start realizing, hey, in order to make this game run at a steady frame rate, this is what we have to do. It's a total normal part of development, but I find it interesting that we haven't seen at least yet, the massive flame response that we saw with like The Witcher or Dying Light or some other next generation games when they were first shown.
No, everyone's saving their ire for the inevitable Watch Dogs 2 downgrade, although that wasn't nearly as ambitious as the original Watch Dogs.
Yeah, that was so noticeable.
Yeah,
if you watch the comparison videos from the reveal to in-game, them trying to replicate, holy crap, that looked bad compared. Like it wasn't that the game looked abysmal in the released version, but like comparing it to the original footages makes it quite clear that they had to downgrade a lot of those visual assets to make it run well.
Is anybody gonna? Watch Dogs 2 to me was like, I watched a little bit of that demo and I just went, yeah, I don't get it.
I really liked the first Watch Dogs. I'm kind of a Watch Dogs defender, and I enjoyed the game, and I did not mind Aiden as a protagonist. But I'm not really interested all that much in Watch Dogs 2 or its protagonists. So.
Yeah, we also got to see the wonderfulness of the internet with the whole main character being black, and then people saying like, "Oh, thanks SJWs, now we have a black main hero." Like, oh boy.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things. Like, ay vey. Like, also, we do have to. You guys will see it. The listeners will see it in our awards. But I want to get out in front of this a little bit. We did mention the whole no female link, and in case people don't read the article, like I tried to be as diplomatic as I could. What we're upset about is the fact that they pussyfooted around for 2 years. Saying, well, maybe, kinda, sorta, blah, 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 blah. No. Like that, like, if the answer was no.
Just say no.
Just say no. Like, why the hell, you go back to the original, 30-second reveal for that game 2 years ago at my first E3, and they were like, and then, I really apologize that I sounded like Bill Cosby there. That was not my
a little bit. Yeah.
That was not my intention. But it was like for them to then just come out and unceremoniously say no. It was just like, so you guys really enjoyed all that free press. You guys really enjoyed all the talking and hemming and hawing about maybe Link's a girl, and it's like, if you weren't gonna do it, just don't do it. Just don't even say anything.
Well, their reasoning too, if you read the interview with Alan.
What's Zelda gonna do?
No, what's Link gonna do?
Oh god!
If Zelda's the main character, what is Link gonna do?
Who cares?
Which is just basically it's an implication that Zelda's only purpose is to be saved by Link because Link needs to rescue someone in order to Anyway.
No, I agree with you. It's again one of those it's one of those tone deaf moments where obviously we're dealing with a Japanese company, so things get lost in translation. People have different priorities. There's cultural differences. I get it, but there's still part of me that's just have somebody put up their hand and go, just say Link's a boy and move on. Just be like, we wanted to make Link a dude. All right, moving on.
I would have been disappointed if that was what they said because I thought it would be cool to play as a girl Link, but I wouldn't be pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off not because I can't play as a girl Link, but because of their reasoning for it.
It's the Assassin's Creed. Do you have any idea how hard it would be to model female characters? It was just oh god.
You have to put boobs on them.
No!
and they have to sashay. They have to sashay their butts around, right? Because that's how women move.
Now you have to ride horse's side saddle, and you have to add physics for all of the stuff.
Now that's all I notice. The sachet is now all I notice whenever I'm playing as a female character. Like, even in Souls games, they kind of do that, and now it's like, oh, god damn it, now I notice it, and now I'm irritated by it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it exists.
No From Software announcements, except that they're working on 3 games.
I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah, that you're relieved, right, Rob? You didn't.
I am actually. If they had announced a Dark Souls 4 or a Bloodborne 2, I would have been like, son of a But instead, they said, hey, we're working on a dark fantasy game. It's like, well, duh. We're working on a revival of an old franchise. Hello, Armored Core, and we're also making something new. And I'm like, hey, all right, that all sounds good. I don't want to see any of that stuff for at least a year.
Yeah.
I was secretly hoping, it wasn't really a secret, that Retro Studios would show what they were working on.
Mega Man! Oh yeah, that's right. That was a long time ago.
And that wasn't Retro Studios, that was a few former employees of them. But,
I can still dream, can't I?
But yeah, nothing. There was...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the press conferences weren't as exciting as last year's that had the triple whammy in the Sony conference, but it did feel there wasn't a ton of new announcements. There was a couple like the week before the show, but nothing actually on the floor or in the press conferences, or not much. I mean, what was the biggest one? Maybe God of War?
Yeah, I think that's a release date for Last Guardian, but that isn't a new announcement. I think you're right. I think Days Gone, which I think kind of went over like a balloon. Yeah.
No, I don't. Please.
There was Ever Oasis. They announced that.
That looks neat.
Anybody else surprised that they just kind of quietly released a video for the new Metroid, whatever the hell that thing is?
Did they for Federation Force?
Yeah, just like a small.
This is what I'm saying. I have no idea. I was at E3. You guys.
I'm more surprised that game just didn't get outright canceled.
Yeah.
And just repurposed into something that people want. I think that game is really. If there's a Venn diagram of what Metroid fans want and what that game is, it's just 2 separate circles by a mile.
Kind of funny. The latest Ghostbusters trailer is getting all the thumbs down for its all-female cast, and the latest Metroid is getting all thumbs down for not having its titular one.
But
yeah, that's funny.
I don't know what to make of that game, and I'm really surprised that it has not been canceled.
Me too. Well, they sure did try really, really hard during the last Nintendo Direct to convince us that we should like it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I'm all about believing in a vision, if they have this vision and they really think that people need to get their hands on it to experience it, to really get where they're coming from. But so I am behind that as an idea, but at the same time, this game just doesn't look great. And it's completely deconstructing, the core of the Metroid series. And it's not that every Metroid necessarily has to follow some rigid formula, but it's almost unrecognizable within the series, It just looks like a weird, low-budget shooting game.
And Nintendo tried to convince me that Star Fox was, going to be amazing, and when I saw it last year, I was like,
Star Fox Zero. I don't. The game is hugely disappointing, and I think that Star Fox is going to take some time off after that one.
I think everything of Nintendo's is just kind of not doing too hot right now, but go figure, the Zelda thing just blew everyone away.
Yeah.
That was,
Pokemon's doing well.
Yeah, but I'm surprised there wasn't more Pokemon at the show, because that game, those 2 games are coming out in October, November?
There was plenty of Pokemon
on the Nintendo Direct.
On the stream, yeah.
On the Direct,
okay, yeah, but there's nothing at the show though.
Yeah, nothing. Not a Pokemon to be found.
Again, the disconnect from following the show from your desk and actually being there.
I wanted to jump up on stage and grab Dragon Quest VII out of the dude's hands, but I realized I would be escorted out by security. I was like, it's right there! It's right there! But you're right. That's the disconnect from being at the show. And it was almost like when I got home every night to the hotel, I would pull up my computer and be like, what all did I miss today? Oh, that's all the stuff that I missed today. Horizon Zero Dawn actually is here and is playable, but it certainly doesn't look like it is. Also, Sony, figure out that booth. a little bit. That Sony's booth was a mess this year. It was way too many people, way too much VR, not enough games, not staged very well. It was just, I didn't want to be over in Sony's booth for more than 5 minutes, and I think 2 of those minutes I took a video of Trico, because they had the big wall thing where, like, you could walk up and interact with them, and that damn thing is so cute.
VR was like the one part of Sony's presser that I was kind of like, I don't know.
They're pushing it hard.
Sony.
I still think they've got an interesting idea because they have the reasonably priced unit that has the lowest barrier to entry.
Yeah,
Because
but they've got to develop actual full-blown experiences
yes,
for
not
that,
Batman
and not
VR.
not like the X-Wing mission or the Final Fantasy episode Dusky in VR.
Oh,
mission
God,
where you get to stare at Cindy's boobs as
Yeah,
Prompto.
that was, again, another tone-deaf moment of just like, oh, dear. Also, I was just angry that they don't have the VR experience for me to do the Revolver Ocelot jazz hands from Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yes.
And speaking of using VR to stare at people's boobs,
Oh no.
the most popular VR booth I saw, which had a line,
America.
that had a line around like the complex, was the Naughty America VR porn booth.
Yes, of course.
It was hilarious. There was
Away from the corner, but everybody was there.
there was a bunch of demos with no lines at all next to them, and then a line around that whole square for Naughty America.
You could have put on a small football game in the back of South Hall with how much space there was. Like, just,
unless
good
you
Lord.
were near the Naughty America booth,
Yes, that's true. That's
which
true.
was very crowded.
Also-
but yeah, of course
Also,
it was.
this was the first year that Indiecade I just walked right through twice and said nope. Like
Yeah, I was bummed. I was hoping to see a few specific RPGs at Indiecade, like Death's Gambit and Cosmic Star Heroine and stuff that was at E3.
Yeah, I really wanted to see Cosmic Star Heroine, but
And
it
there was
wasn't anywhere.
there was a bunch of stuff, but neither of those were at the Indiecade, and the Indiecade was a little disappointing compared to past years because The Witness was a big feature of Indiecade last year.
The biggest question is, did they have butt sniffing pugs? Because I didn't.
I didn't find that either, man. I looked at everything in Indiecade.
Because that should be the game of the show, every show.
And then we Below had a big presence over in Microsoft. 3 years
It did.
running. That game still looks awesome. Should be out this year.
I couldn't see what was happening in that demo because every time I walked by, it was like the screen was totally black except for the tiny character. At the,
Yep,
like
that's the point of the game.
but that's cool, but it doesn't show well.
No, it does not.
Is that the Sword and Sorcery guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they had that on a single Nathan crap, I forget the guy's name, but one of the main developers, he brought his PC to E3 2 years ago, and he had it in the Indiecade booth, and I just went over and played that for like about 40 minutes, just chatting with him the whole time. And you're right, Derek, that's a game that like you got to sit down and play Below.
Yeah.
Like, you don't play that
You
game.
want to immerse
in
yourself. You
Yeah.
don't want to just hop in.
It's a really cool game. I didn't want to talk about it again this year because like I've been talking about it for 3 years now, but like it's that game looks really special. I'm really excited to get my hands on that. And there were nice things at Microsoft because you could get the most bang for your buck. Like there were a lot of games that were maybe at other booths, like Deus Ex was over there too, so you could play that a little bit. Microsoft has had a much better booth. They still need to get the goddamn car out of there. Like then it would be perfect.
Why? Why is there a car? This ain't Final Fantasy 15 on cover.
Derek,
Thank you.
Derek, didn't you know people with penises love cars? So we just have to see a car. Like,
Is that true?
I'm just saying
but
there was a
they
huge
had
line for a lot of
Forza.
games, but there was no line to look at that car.
Yeah, they did
Forza.
have
Why do you need a
Forza.
real life car?
if they had Tawny Katane on the car, then maybe I would have gone by.
I don't know what you're saying. So,
But
Here I go again on my own.
oh.
Going
Are you
down
okay?
the only road I'm living on.
Jing, jing, jing.
I'm sorry, that music
God,
video
yeah.
is like the sexual awakening of most teenagers in the 1980s. So,
Uh,
I
You weren't-
know
you weren't
what
a-
I mean.
You weren't a teenager until the 90s.
Yeah, I know. I was an
Okay.
early boomer.
All right, well, yeah. But anyway, you were talking about how your experience with the Below demo was basically the guy bringing his laptop and you messing around with it.
Yes.
That's exactly how Stephanie and I played Pyre. on the first day of
Oh
the show.
yeah.
We just went into like an open area that was one floor away from the giant line to get into the show, and we met up with Greg Kasavin, and Stephanie just played Pyre on his laptop for 30 minutes while I asked him questions, and Peter took notes.
And Pyre is the new game by Supergiant, who made Transistor and Bastion, right?
It's the basketball-esque RPG.
Yep, it looks so cool. I cannot wait to play that next year. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, so you like basketball anyway, right? So it's kind of
true.
Do they have the narrator? From
Warriors or Cavs, Mike?
Oh,
well, okay, I was rooting for the Warriors because the Cavs wore sleeved jerseys in the finals, and that's just gross.
That's okay. What a random reason.
And you can talk sports, you can talk, games. You can talk about Simpsons. It's great.
Can we go Penguins?
No. Go Leafs, go.
You're from freaking Canada. You invented the sport. What the hell? Just because we're so insanely dominant at it. Yeah, that's actually how I got to start my E3 was the night before watching the Tonys with Jackie, so it was just all Hamilton all the time.
Yeah, I was going to go hang out with my sister for one day before everyone arrived, but she had to cover the Tonys on Sunday night.
Oof. Oh, Caitlin, I bought Jackie tickets to Hamilton.
In what, Chicago?
No, Broadway.
What? Wait, how did you get tickets?
New York?
I mean, she can't go until May. She has tickets for Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
Am I not the best husband?
Yes, you are the best husband.
Damn straight.
Who's a good boy? You're a good boy.
Aw, thanks, Darren.
Who's a good boy?
It's coming to St. Louis too for the 2017-2018 season at the Fox. So I'm gonna go see it here in my hometown.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up tickets for that as soon as they're available in DC.
Welcome to the Hamilton podcast.
Look, I'm not throwing away my shot, okay?
AKA, yes.
I'll never be satisfied.
I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
Oh God.
Video games.
I'm helpless.
Video games.
Guys,
there were
helpless.
2 other games that I wanted to bring up actually from the show, and I know we already discussed Square Enix a bit, but I did get to play I Am Setsuna a bit.
Oh yeah.
That was super fun.
Excited for that game. Yeah,
the demo was great.
Yeah, it demoed well, which is surprising considering it's a game all about like this theme of melancholy and sacrifice. But as everybody expected, it feels like Chrono Trigger built on a modern engine. Attacks have good weight, and they're snappy. There's good visual feedback. It feels like Chrono Trigger made for the new age, and I'm really excited. Like it is a lower fidelity game, but it doesn't feel low budget, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't seem like they weren't using their resources well. So super excited for that to release. It's actually less than a month away now. And
I'm excited to get that soundtrack soon. I think.
Oh man, I imported that the day it released. The day it released in Japan, I got it. It's 2 discs. It's like 55 tracks, and every one of them is good. Every track is good.
Every song I've heard from that game is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think I might get it on PC. I'm debating between PC
well, it's
or
cool that you have
PlayStation
that
4.
option.
Yeah, but I just like I feel like
with your 1070.
Well, yeah. Well, I think with my I've got a 50-inch TV in the living room, but I think it's just a little too I sit just a little too far away from it, so you have those moments where like games where the text is maybe just a little too tiny is extremely pronounced. Like I forget what. Oh, it was actually Salt and Sanctuary. I had to get up and walk to the screen because like I couldn't see what I was doing. I know Witcher had some problems with that. So yeah, I'm a little bummed about not getting the Vita version, but then Steven was saying that the Vita version has terrible load times.
Just watching videos, it doesn't perform well.
That's so bizarre to me.
I wish that we could get it, but I mean, I would be getting it on PS4 or Steam over Vita anyway, knowing that. So
knowing that is definitely a factor. But again, my little like movement of now playing RPGs on the go, like Dragon Quest VII Dragon Quest 7 will have a home in my 3DS for a long time. Mm-hmm. Although if Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse comes out around the same time, there's going to be a fight.
They need to give us a date for that. Aren't they supposed to be giving one soon?
We should have a date soon, but they didn't seem to be that happy hearing that Dragon Quest VII was coming out on the 16th of September, and they had a tentative date of September 20th. I would rethink that date right now. I'd actually, I'd push it back a little bit.
I would too.
But then again, handheld games can be evergreen titles, so I don't think there'll be too much cannibalization. But I think it's one of those like you won't see the direct profits for some time.
I think and Dragon Quest I think has a propensity for being evergreen more so than say Shin Megami Tensei.
Yep, and Dragon Quest is also amazing, contrary to what our northern brethren may feel. So that's. Was that a moose? Was that a moose? Like, what the hell?
Yes, it was.
Or a caribou?
Ooh, caribou coffee. I like caribou coffee. So, moving on, there was one other game that I played at the show, and that was Tales of Berseria.
Yay!
That wasn't... I played more than just that also. But yeah, so I got to play Tales of Berseria. It wasn't actually on the show floor proper. It was kind of tucked away in Namco Bandai's meeting room area. So they had a couple of kiosks. Oh, actually, they only had one kiosk for it, now that I think of it. But
I never found it.
I didn't either.
You could either go up there, because we went there for an appointment, and the appointment was basically just, go ahead, play the things. So I think if I didn't have an appointment there, I wouldn't have known to look for it, because like I said, it was tucked away. But I got my hands on that, and as Caitlin knows, I think we shared some of our distaste for Zestiria, right?
I still haven't gone back to it after getting through the first town because I just don't want to play it. So.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That battle camera, it cannot be understated how busted that is and how just unfun it makes battle. And I didn't like some of the things they did with its battle system either. Like, the idea of fusing with your party members is cool, but what it really means in actuality is that you just have two bodies moving around at any given time, and it feels limiting. And then there are issues with like the story being sort of predictable, and the cast was okay. Anyway, I felt like Zestiria wasn't quite the step forward in the series that I wanted, and Berseria seems like it's going to buck that trend, mostly because of the advancements in the battle system. So they've returned to the system where you like actually transition into a separate little battlefield when you encounter an enemy on the map, which is good because A, that happens almost instantaneously, and B, the combat system is designed around that, so the camera doesn't hang on any walls, as there are none blocking the view.
And free run is permanent now, right?
Yep, yes. Free run is permanent now, which is really cool. And
long time coming, Matt.
Yeah.
Actually.
The big difference in this one is that if you've played a Tales game, you know that characters usually have like a basic attack. You just like doesn't take MP. You can just kind of spam it a little bit, and then you have your arts. You have your arts, which are like your specials. And previously, you could combo those into one another, sort of pending whatever upper combo limit restriction you have on you at that given time, like based on where you are in the story or level. So this one makes it so that each of the 4 face buttons, square, triangle, X, circle, do a different attack. And then they also do a different attack based on where you are in a chain of 4 combo attacks, which is kind of hard to explain. But like if I press X 4 times, I could set a different attack to each of those X slots. So like X the first time does one thing, X the second time does another thing, etc. So what that effectively means is that you have 16 different abilities mapped to your character at any given time, which is a lot. Because previously you could have maybe 8. Like you could have your arts would usually be like press circle while holding up, down, left, or right, and then maybe like hold R1 while you're pressing that for 4 more. So this is like very technical, I know, but it makes a big difference in the Tales battle system because it's all about speediness and comboing things together, and you want to juggle enemies and catch them in your attacks. So having such a wide variety of stuff available to you at any given time is fantastic. And you can easily switch between characters on the fly just by pressing a button. And a la Final Fantasy X, you can swap characters in and out. So it's never like, you have people in the background that you're just not going to use. It's like you can just pop them right into the fight.
I had missed that. All right, that's fascinating.
Yeah, yes. It's like you hold a button and then hold L1 and press up or down on the control pad or whatever.
That was an issue. That was a step backwards that Exilia 2 made, because Exilia 1 had the same idea. You could swap people out on the fly, and Exilia 2 you had a set party, and if you wanted to use other people, you had to bring them in. The idea was that it took up less memory because they didn't have to have all of the characters preloaded to pop in nearly. But it did make things feel really stilted if you wanted to switch things up in battle or while you're out and about. So
yeah, that's a problem.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, this is all exciting to me. Yeah. I haven't really loved a Tales game since Vesperia, which I adore. But this is everything you say about Berseria makes it really intriguing.
Yeah, I think I agree with
a bit,
you.
right? Since Zesty.
Zestfully
that?
clean.
The equipment system in Zesteria was probably the least fun thing.
Yeah. I didn't like that either.
Yeah. It was really head scratching.
I didn't really get to mess
Ever to
with it.
master anything. It was so counterintuitive.
Uh-huh. I didn't mess with it too much in Berseria since I had like 5, maybe 10 minutes, probably like 10 minutes demoing it.
But still a good reaction all around, eh?
Yeah, I felt really, really positive about it, and I haven't loved a Tales game. I think I agree with Solosia. I haven't really loved one since Vesperia. There have been some that have been good. I've been like, all right, this is fine. I enjoyed it.
Abyss is worth your love.
Oh, no, I
No,
love it.
Abyss is great, but that's a few years before Vesperia.
Yeah,
And
see, I played it after, so to me,
Oh, okay.
Vesperia is my first.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
my first was Fantasia. I'm old.
Oh, you're so old.
Yeah.
Berseria came away feeling pretty confident. I would say it was the most surprising game I played at the show, just in terms of how it defied my expectations, because I've been so lukewarm on the series recently that after Zesteria, I was like, maybe I can take some time off from Tales. But Berseria looks great, and I'm actually totally fine with it coming out next year because...
They're giving it more
much
time,
to
I
play.
think, to percolate.
Yeah.
And
September is jam-packed. We don't need more
Yeah.
RPGs in September.
The next 6 months are jam-packed. Like Persona
Yeah.
5. Like, good lord.
Yeah, Persona 5 comes out on Valentine's Day, and then Horizon Zero Dawn comes out on my birthday a few weeks later.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
Happy birthday to
Horizon.
me.
Happy birthday!
That demo they showed for Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, I wanted that game super bad last year, but I want it even more super
Looks
bad.
good. Looks really good.
Wow! I know they described it as an RPG, but I was still pleasantly surprised to see at least the bare bones of a dialogue wheel. So that's good, and to see you having to be strategic about what enemies to take down for crafting stuff. And the fight at the end, that was a really good demonstration. I'm sorry, Square, that was a good way to demonstrate what your game is like and what combat will be like that makes you want to play it and is not a hot mess.
Yeah, it's crazy. It comes out 5 months after Final Fantasy 15 does, and its demo was so much more informative and apparent, and at least it looked to me fun to play than the 15 demo that they had at the show. It's bonkers.
I would tend to agree with you guys. And yikes. So yeah, I feel like we're running out of steam here a little bit. I think we've kind of talked about everything that we want to talk about. But
Well, one quick shout out.
No!
Xseed's booth was very small, but they had a lot of games and a lot of really helpful staff. And I could not be more excited for Trails of Cold Steel 2 or Shantae.
Yeah.
Did you guys go talk to Brittany?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
At length. I went back there for
I didn't meet Brittany.
I still need to play
you didn't?
Cold Steel 1.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Rob, you need to.
Maybe I met her and I just didn't get her name. But yeah,
Yes, Steph was there with me, right? One of the times?
Yep.
Yeah, she's super cool. It's I would describe that as best booth experience. I'm giving away my E3 awards. Best booth experience was going there just because obviously I'm like a ridiculous Falcom and Trails fan, but being able to talk to the people there, Brittany in particular, she's just like, she's so knowledgeable and she brings a genuine enthusiasm for that series that it's really nice to be able to like talk to somebody demoing the game who is incredibly invested in it and cares about stuff. Like, 'cause everybody at E3 is they're either a business person or they write or report on games in some capacity. But like, for the most part, the people there, like the games they're demoing to some degree. But it's not often that you come across somebody like Brittany at Xseed who's just like, oh my god, and then when this character did this and this and this, and it's not canned. It's very genuine, and it's cool because it reminds me of why we do this in the first place, because we're all very passionate about games. So it's good to be able to engage in that.
And I was really flattered when I went and introduced myself there, and mentioned that I was from RPG Fan. Even some of the Japanese Marvelous staff. I mean, well, okay, they're Marvelous people, but their company's called Marvelous. They recognized, the Green Shield. Like, oh yes, you. They actually recognized RPG Fan, which was surprising and flattering to me.
Good.
I was down there to demo Akibi's Beat with Colin, and that game looks all right. It's very pastel colored. Very, every character has a color-coded, fake-looking weapon, so it's another game that's kind of like Power Rangers.
Yeah.
But it looks cool. It's very Persona-esque.
Do you know that 3 of the playable characters in that game are maids?
No, okay, they're not.
They're
Not exactly. I think there's more than 3, but they're you rescue a bunch of maids that are being pursued by delusional fanboys. And no, 1 second. But you they're more like Rise or Fuka in Persona. They're your navigators and give your party different attributes and bonuses. But and I think that you rescue more than 3. It's probably more like 5 or 6. But yeah, it's about a game about beating up delusional Akiba patrons and rescuing maids.
Oh boy.
Just like real life.
No, that's Caitlin. That heavy breathing sound is what they make, and that's why you beat them up. Like just like.
Oh well, that sounds like your kind of game then, Rob.
Yeah, well, that's true. I have been known to mouth breathe on this podcast in the past.
Oh, it's an action RPG with combat that is everyone's going to compare to a Tales of game.
Dark Souls.
Well, this is not from Xseed, but did anyone get a chance to play Night in the Woods? Or see Night in the Woods?
Colin loved that. I did not.
Colin argued for that game hardcore.
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad he did.
Really cool.
Yeah, we had a big hotel room discussion as to how to set up the awards. And he was very pro Night in the Woods.
We're going to record that next year because that would have made a great podcast. Because I want all the listeners to hear how vehemently I tried to defend our overall game of the show and how wrong everybody was. But that's neither here nor there.
It was a 5-3 vote, Rob, and I was on your side actually.
I think our votes should have counted for more. But that's not how democracy works apparently.
Anyway,
I'm just
Night in the
confused
Woods.
myself. Night in the Woods.
Yeah, I remember I was able to catch an interview on I forget what stream it was, and the first thing I see is this cat, and she's snarky, and she's got like a doodle book that she doodles her inner thoughts in, and it's all perfectly sarcastic, and I was like, I need this. What is this? I've never heard of this. I must have it. And that was actually kind of like my biggest surprise. Like my most pleasant surprise from everything I saw from E3 was a game I'd never heard about and maybe would not have heard about had I not been looking at E3 content that I now must have.
Those are the best moments of E3. Those are my favorite moments when something just surprises you in a great way. And I kind of want to use that, Caitlin, as a jumping off point for kind of our last topic. I kind of want to go around the table and talk to everybody about, what was their best thing that they saw at E3. And I'll start. My surprise of E3 was Tyranny, the new game from the gang working over at Obsidian that worked on Pillars. Solosi, Steven have been telling me to play Pillars for a long time, and
It solves every problem you have with those old Infinity Engine games.
I know, but Divinity stomped me so hard and emasculated me and put me in the corner that I was very hesitant. And so when I walked into the Obsidian thing by myself, because Steph didn't come with, I went there and I was really excited to see the game, and I told them outright, hey, I suck at these games. So I'm nervous, and I sat down and played it, and it was more than just the interface stuff that really had me turned on to the game. It was the fact that you're playing in a world where the bad guys won, so you're kind of all evil and crappy. It's like all of Frieza's men fighting over each other to get one up on each other to be great in Frieza's eyes. It's just that. For whatever reason, is much more attractive to me than the fantasy that they created with Pillars, and it ended up being my game of the show. I was really blown away by Tyranny, and it is apparently coming out this year, and I am very excited to play it. That
I admit, I'm not terribly.
I wish I could have sex with Persona 5's menus.
They are.
I would make sweet love to those menus and that UI in Persona 5.
I do want to give whoever made that a big sloppy kiss on the mouth.
I would do terrible, terrible things to the people that designed those victory screens.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Why terrible things, though? They don't deserve terribleness.
Some people want we're not going there. We're not going there. Moving on. Derek, what was the best thing you saw?
Best thing I saw, I mean, I saw a lot of stuff. I got to see Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age, which is 12 is one of my most favorite games of all time, so that was awesome to see. And again, I didn't actually get my hands on very much at the show because of the nature of the lines this year. I don't know. Apparently, I lost my ability to talk. Well, I'd say that my favorite games of the show were Breath of the Wild and Persona 5, but neither of those were things that I could actively go and check out whenever I wanted. So I got to say Zelda, as cliche as it may be, it's called Breath of the Wild, and yet it took my breath away. This is super, super good.
Take my breath away.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, also the best title at E3. A massive,
Oh, man.
Yes.
massive
It's an A+ game title.
that is a redemption from last year's to Xenoblade Chronicles X and Rise of the Tomb Raider, which had me foaming at the mouth with how I still think those are awful titles.
The Tomb Raider Rises.
Revelations.
Breath of the Wild, great title, and Dad of War, missed opportunity.
I like.
We thought it was going to be called Son of War. Yeah.
Son of War
I
is
like
really
Son
good.
of War better.
I like
God of War Daycare Edition.
I like Kramer versus Kratos, but I think that one cuts.
I love that.
that one cuts real deep. You gotta be knowledgeable on that one. But Kramer versus Kratos is pretty good.
What if you can name the kid? Would you name him Kramer?
Kramer.
What was the name of the kid in that? I can't remember now.
I don't know. Did he have a name?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I just know he has a button dedicated to him, which is awesome.
I
Jason.
would name him Liability.
Ooh.
That's all he's
I'm actually surprised he has a button because I thought that he was probably going to die at some point.
Steph, what was the best thing at E3 for you?
The people.
Oh, don't do that. No. F that.
Well, now you make the rest of us look like
None of
dicks.
that sap. None of that sap. Clearly you hated everybody on the trip, and we were all horribly mean people.
We were.
You made fun of me for being Canadian for the first 5 minutes.
He did for the whole trip. What are you
She
talking
ripped
about?
into me constantly. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
okay. Hey, Steph, I bet I can guess.
So best thing, I was really happy to see Pyre. It definitely helps that was my sort of interview popping cherry. So I was really pleased with that. I grew up, in a sort of basketball-loving household, so I just thought it was really cool to play an RPG basketball hybrid. That, and I really, really loved the Fat Chocobo statue.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Everyone else has a statue of you have the angry Link, the evil goblins, the really cool but the Horizon Zero Dawn dinosaur thing. It's all this kind of angry stuff. So I was just happy to see just a big fat bird was commissioned as a statue.
And you could ride him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, I lived my fantasy on that, for sure.
Oh, Derek, it's your final fantasy. Ah!
Steph, I was going to say, I'm surprised your game of the show wasn't Warhammer 40,000, Inquisitor, Martyr.
Yeah.
God.
So many unnecessary nouns.
Slow City.
Running at 10 frames per second.
Right. Well, I think we basically talked about everything that I liked at the show already. So I'll just talk about one game that I really enjoyed that we haven't mentioned yet. Thimbleweed Park is this weird, adorable adventure game by Ron Gilbert, who co-created Maniac Mansion and Secret of Monkey Island and a bunch of stuff. And man, that game is nuts. It's a murder investigation in a tiny town, and there's a clown who's cursed to have his makeup on forever, and a ghost of a pillow shop factory worker that's haunting you. And that game is totally weird and looks neat. And we haven't talked about it yet. So yeah, Thimbleweed Park.
And Caitlin, what was your favorite thing about E3? Did we
Was someone
lose?
playing with a milk jug?
Sorry. I was tapping on the thing to bring it back to the call controls, and it was not cool. Google Hangouts is not like me,
Just
okay?
keep playing that jug, Lisa.
I mean, I have to give it to Zelda, that. Nothing sucked up more of my attention out of the 3 days, 3 days plus conferences, day 0, than that. And like I said at the start of the show, I'm not a big Zelda fan. I have not played most of the Zeldas. It's, I've enjoyed what I have played, but it's not like I'm not a ravenous, I must have the new Zelda. This is the first Zelda that I will be getting day one, that I must have, that I wish was coming out this year instead of next year. I'm not getting an NX for it, Nintendo. I will play it on my Wii U, and I will love it on my Wii U, unless we get a new Xenoblade, and then maybe I will consider it. But, yeah, I mean, like, I can't believe I'm saying Zelda over Persona 5, but I am. Persona 5 is very close.
Okay, so Steph has kicked off the website, Caitlin has kicked off the website, and Derek, I think, Derek? No, you can stay.
Hey, no, I tied them in my mind. Because they're so different. I said as much in my awards that, once again, haven't released yet, and I keep spoiling. Not that it really matters, because it's not like people are waiting. But for those two, I just feel like Persona 5 and Zelda appeal to such different parts of my brain. I think Persona 4 stimulates my need for nuanced storytelling and cutting-edge design, whereas Zelda is more
Persona
like...
5.
Zelda's catering to my craving for adventure. Like, it just feels so... I mean, it's called Breath of the Wild, but it feels so wild.
It's a breath of fresh air.
It is, yeah.
Would you say you're feeling the call of the wild?
I am!
Hans.
They're complementary experiences, I think. We don't have to...
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I was not very excited for Zelda. I think my thoughts on Skyward Sword are, harsh. But I really enjoyed the sense of adventure in A Link Between Worlds, and it feels like they've just blown up the adventure part of it. And as I said to everybody on the show floor, I have nothing bad to say about that game. Like, I just want to play it. And I hope it turns out as amazing as it looked and as it demoed. And I think, Nintendo's had a rough couple of months, and they showed something that looked pretty freaking sweet. So, I think that's going to do it for this E3 2016. It's over. It's done with. We now have to wait a whole year to do it again.
No!
Everybody get excited. It's going to happen.
Hype train,
coming up, you guys.
Hype
It's
train,
only
board the hype train right
11
here.
and a half months away. That's coming up, right?
It shows up quick. It feels like you never left, though. When you get there, it feels like I was just here. Like, what? Because everything looks the same. It's the same building. It's the same Starbucks. It's like everything just feels the same. It's weird. It is very surreal to go there, but I love it. And I loved seeing all you guys. I loved meeting new people. I loved meeting old people. Being with my bed buddy Derek, as always.
Aw. Thanks,
Derek,
buddy.
Yeah.
Confirmed
Could
best
that be part of our awards thing? Best bed buddy was definitely Derek.
Yeah.
Cuddle buddies.
Cuddle buddy goes
I
to
love you guys.
In the other room, we all slept separately. I mean,
He would not let me sleep. He would not let me cuddle him, but that's okay.
Oh, boy.
It's not that I wouldn't let you.
That's weird too, because at MagFest earlier this year, Derek was a cuddle monster.
Yeah,
He was unstoppable.
Thank
Like
you,
the
everybody.
LeBron James of cuddling.
Oh my God.
The LeBron James.
Except he was not wearing a sleeved shirt, which is
Does that mean he never gets called for traveling? Like, what does that mean right now? Like,
well, I mean,
Sure.
nobody gets called for traveling.
Yeah, hardly ever.
Nobody calls traveling anymore. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast. Be sure to, as always, subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us positive reviews. We love to get feedback. Derek, how's that mailbag looking?
Still nothing. What the hell, you guys? Please send me. I told you I'd read your poem on the air.
I know.
I can't really think of any other attractive offers. Like, I'm not going to shave my head because I don't have hair anyway, so I don't know what you expect from me, listeners. But please, if you would like to say anything to us, we are here listening. You can send us an email, podcast@rpgfan.com. You can also tweet at us. We're at rpgfancom, and I'm sure Steph would be more than happy to pass that along to us. So
And
please talk to us, because I
next-
think we might have 4 listeners now. I think we may have. bumped up to 3.
3 or 4. I think the next episode is going to be a really good one because we've got Zero Time Dilemma to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And,
man, I'm not going to be on that
and-
episode because I'm going to be too busy playing Zero Time Dilemma.
And Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
And Caitlin and I will probably kill each other because I've been playing a lot of Blood and Wine. And yeah.
Why would I kill you for playing that?
Because I'm gonna complain about The Witcher again.
Ah!
I know. It's just hit repeat on all my complaints about the combat again.
I'll do what you
Please
do
look
whenever
forward
I'm
to it.
discussing, like, whenever I'm discussing a Falcom game, you usually put yourself on mute and go get a glass of scotch because you're an asshole. So I'll just do that when you talk about
Yeah, you noticed when the four of us were talking about Tales of Berseria, there was one person noticeably missing from the conversation.
There's one
I noticed
person
it every time it happened.
There's one person that went, I don't even know what that game looks like, and I couldn't pick it out if you asked me to.
What does WRPG stand for again?
Western RPG.
Whack!
Well, what does CRPG stand for again?
That's more of the computer style of like a
Right.
Baldur's Gate. I hate all of
I
it.
gotcha. Right.
Anywho, thank you everybody for listening to the show, and we will see you all later.